Okay. So this week's Parsha, we're going to concentrate on the Haftorah of this week's Parsha. We are pretty much, the time of the Haftarah is right after King Solomon was king. So this is 2 or 3 generations later. There was maybe even less maybe. There was a separation between the Jewish people, Yehuda, who was in Yerushalayim, and the rest of the 10 tribes. There was a complete separation. They became into 2 nations. Pretty much, if you want to know in modern terms, Yehuda, the tribe of Yehuda who lived in Yerushalayim, was religious. The other 10 tribes stopped being religious. Yeah, Levi was in the cities, so it depends where he was. If he was in the if he was in the cities of Yehuda, he was Yehuda. If he was in the city of Israel, he was in Israel. Depends on the people.
He didn't learn Torah either.
Oh, in their cities, I think that the answer is no, because they didn't want to live in that neighborhood, so they probably moved from those cities to these cities. It's just but practically happened. I don't think it happened immediately, but it took some time. But this is what usually they didn't want the environment, that environment of the 10 cities. Interestingly enough, though, think about it like modern Israel today. Think about it, if modern Israel today, you've got Yerushalayim who's religious, you've got Tel Aviv, which is atheist. It was pretty much the same time. The economy was also the same. People in Yerushalayim and Yehuda were poor. All the high-tech companies were by Israel, were by the 10 tribes. I mean, they didn't have high-tech, I was joking, but you can understand what I'm saying. All the money, all the power, everything was by the 10 tribes. Wasn't by Yehuda.
And why they split? Because of the taxes?
Yeah, the split was because of the taxes. In other places, it was also the split was also because this was too religious, and they didn't want too religious. And we're going to learn a little bit about this. So let's start with source number 1, which is in Kings, page number 1. וישלח אחאב בכל בני ישראל ויקבוץ את הנביאים אל הר הכרמל. Achav sent to all the Jewish people, and he told all the prophets to come to the mountain of Carmel. ויגש אליהו אל כל העם. So then Eliyahu comes to the entire nation. So the entire nation are standing right over there. You've got Yehuda and you've got Israel. Both people. Vayomer, and he is speaking to them. And he says, Ad matai atem poschim al shtei haseifim. He tells the people, so the people in Israel were a bit weird. Even though they were idol worshippers, even though they were atheists, so-called, they still served God. Still davened to God. They were still religious atheists, let's call them. I know it sounds hard, but that's what they were. They were religious atheists, let's call them. So he tells them, why do you waver between these 2 opinions? He asks them. If you believe in God, be religious. Act like you're supposed to act like. And if you believe in the idols, yeah, at that time the idol was Baal. He gave the sustenance. You served him. You received lots of money. Lechu acharav. So he says, you want lots of money? You want nature? You want Baal? Go after this one. Velo anu ha'am oto davar. And the people didn't answer him. They don't answer him. So then, let's see what happens. Vayomer Eliyahu el ha'am. So Eliyahu says, he comes to the nation and he tells them, Ani notarti navi la'Hashem levadi. Look at the situation right now. Only one prophet in the nation. Pretty much the other prophets, you know who they are? The other prophets are pretty much in Israel prophets. They're not real ones, let's call them this way. ונביאי הבעל 450 איש. And the other prophets, the prophets for the Baal, the prophets of nature in our case, are 450 men. So it's 450 against Eliyahu. ויתנו לנו, so he says, I suggest, let's let's do a trial. What was the try? ויתנו לנו שני פרים, ויבחרו להם הפר האחד. He says, let's take 2 bulls. They, the 450 prophets of the Baal, of the idol worship, they chose one. ויינתחהו, they cut him up. וישימו על העצים, and they put it on top of the firewood. ואש לא ישימו, but do not light it on fire. ואני אעשה את הפר האחד, and I'm going to choose the other bull. ונתתי על העצים ואש לא אשים. I'm also going to put it on the firewood, on the fire, on the wood, but we're not going to light it. And then what we're going to do is the experiment. This is going to be the experiment. וקראתם בשם אלוקיכם, you're going to call in the name. Let me just preface a little bit. At that time, you were not allowed to bring sacrifices out of the temple. Even though you were not allowed to bring sacrifices out of the temple, over here, they brought them. Because there's a rule that if a prophet says to change Torah, but he says, I'm not going to change Torah from now and forever, just for one occurrence, and it is a known prophet, not any prophet, a prophet that you know for sure is a prophet, he says you have to listen to him once. So for example, if Eliyahu comes over to you tomorrow and you know him as a prophet, he tells, tomorrow you don't put on tefillin. Yeah? Only for tomorrow. God told me, only for tomorrow do not put on tefillin. He says, tomorrow we don't put on tefillin. But if he comes and tells you, there's no more tefillin, that he cannot do. He says, one occurrence for a reason you can do. So this is what's happening over here. Even though at that time you're not allowed to bring sacrifices outside of the temple, this is what was wrote. So it says, "Vekaratem b'shem Elokechem." He told the people, "You're going to call in the name of God, of your God, v'ani ikra b'shem Hashem, and I'm going to call in the name of God. V'aya Elokim asher yaneh b'nei eshu Elokim." Whoever God answers, that's the one. V'ya'an kol ha'am v'yomru tov hadavar. Everybody agreed. Everybody says, "Good idea. Let's continue." V'yomer Eliyahu l'nevei Baal. Eliyahu says, "Nevei Baal, you guys, you start. You do it." In other words, after that, you're going to say, I chose, I knew what to choose. Whatever you don't want, I'll take. That's what it tells them. בחרו לכם הפר האחד ועשו ראשונה, כי אתם ברבים. It says, since you're the majority, you're 450, nature is in the majority, there's many powers in nature, since you're the majority, וקראו בשם אלוקיכם ואש לא תשימו. Call in the name of God, but don't put fire. Page number 2. ויקחו את הפר אשר נתן להם ויעשו, they took the bull that he gave them and they made it, ויקראו בשם הבעל מהבוקר ועד הצהריים, and they're singing to their idol called the Baal from morning to noon. They're screaming, come, light is on fire, light is on fire. לאמור הבעל עננו, it says, please answer us. ואין קול ואין עונה, nobody has answered them. ויפסחו על המזבח אשר עשו. And they realized this is not going in a good manner for them. Vayehi b'tzoraim, so noon came, so Eliyahu starts already mocking them. Vayehatel b'hem Eliyahu vayomer kiru b'kol gadol. It says, guys, maybe there's a problem. Maybe you're not saying it loud enough. He doesn't hear you. Maybe that's your problem. Ki Elokim hu, ki siach v'chi siglo v'chi derech lo, אולי ישנו ויקרא. It says, maybe he's sleeping, maybe he's busy. You never know. Try to wake him up a little bit more volume over here. ויקראו בקול גדול, so they called in a great voice. This is an interesting thing, just historical facts. You know how there's a sect of Muslims that there's a certain time of the year they take knives and they cut themselves and they flog themselves? Have you ever seen it? I don't remember which sect it is, right? There's a sect of Muslims, that's what they do. They cut themselves with swords and they do it. They're all bloody on their back. Have you ever seen it? Yeah, you've seen it. It comes from, you know where it comes from? It comes from Baal. This is where it comes from. ויתגודדו כמשפטם בחרבות וברמחים. They started cutting themselves, doing exactly what the Muslims do. The idol worship of that Muslims are taken from this Baal. עד שפך דם עליהם, until they were all bloodied. They're lashing themselves, they're all bloody. ויהי כעבור הצהריים, ויתנבאו עד לעלות מנחה, ואין קול ואין עונה ואין קשב. It's already afternoon, they're all bloody, they're all screaming, nothing is happening. now it's going to be Eliyahu's turn. Vayomer Eliyahu lechol ha'am, Eliyahu said to the entire nation, Geshu elai, says, approach me. Vayigshu kol ha'am elav. And they all came to him. Vayirapeh et mizbeach Hashem ha'harus, and he repaired the torn down altar. ויקח אליהו 12 אבנים כמספר שבטי בני יעקב, he took 12 stones, אשר היה דבר השם לאמור יהיה שמך, ויבנה את האבנים מזבח, he built from these stones an altar, ויעש תעלה כבית סתיים זרע מסביב מזבוח, and he made a trench the size of 2 סאה around the altar, he made a trench, ויערוך את העצים, and he set up the wood, וינתח את הפר, he cut the bull, וישם על העצים, and he put the bull upon the wood, ויאמר מילאו 4 כדים מים. And he says, so that you're not going to say, there was a trick over here, I made ashes over there somewhere. So it says, fill 4 big jugs of water, ויצקו על העולה ועל העצים, pour the water on it. So if there was fire over there, you're not going to tell me, you hit the fire there before. It says, pour the water on it. ויאמר שנו וישנו, it says, do it again, more water. וישנו שלישו וישנו, and did 3 times. 3 times, they're pouring water all over the altar. וילכו המים סביב למזבח, וגם התעלה מלאה מים. So the water went all around the altar, and also the channel that he dug up also became filled with water. Okay? ויהי בעלות המנחה, now it's already before שקיעה a little bit, מנחה time, ויגש אל אליהו הנביא ויאמר, אליהו approached and he says, השם אלוקי אברהם, יצחק וישראל, God, the gods of Abraham, Yitzchak and Israel, היום יוודע כי אתה אלוקים בישראל. Today they will know that you are God. השם הוא אלוקים. ואני עבדך, and today they will know that I'm your slave, I'm your servant. ובדברך עשיתי את כל הדברים האליך. And it was because of you I did all these things. Remember what I told you, he's not allowed to bring sacrifices. But today they will realize that you told me to bring the sacrifice. I'm not going against halacha. And then he says, Aneni Hashem Aneni, he says, answer me. וידעו העם כי אתה Hashem Elokim. And everybody will know that Yud Kei Vav Kei is nature, is Elokim. ואתה הסיבות את ליבם אחורנית. And you, God, you made these old guys be like fools. You know, okay? ותיפול אש השם, a fire came from the heavens, ותאכל את העולה, it consumed the bull, ואת העצים, ואת האבנים, ואת האפר, not only the bull, the wood, the stones, the dust, ואת המים אשר בתעלה לכחה, and even the water that's in the thing, it licked. וירא כל העם, and everybody was in awe, ויפלו על פניהם, they bowed down, ויאמרו, הוויה הוא האלוקים. And they said, Yud Kei Vav Kei is Elokim. Havaya hu Elokim. And they said it twice. Yud Kei Vav Kei is Elokim. Okay. Now we're going to go a little bit deeper. There's a midrash on this whole story, and we're going to try to understand the deeper meaning of this story. It's a nice story, but like in the Torah, everything has a deeper meaning. So in source number 2, on page number 3, it brings down Midrash Rabbah, and it tells us the background of the story. So it says, Ma'asa Eliyahu. It says, what exactly did Eliyahu do during that time? Amar lahem, he said to them, Bacharu shnei parim te'omim me'em achat. It wasn't just 2 bulls. It was 2 bulls who were identical twins from one mother. In other words, identical twins from one mother. That's what you choose. In other words, for Perek Chaf, Havaya and Elokim are from the same source. In other, nature and God come from the same thing exactly. God is nature is God. Hagdelim al mir'eh echad. Both of them go shepherding into one field. Ve'etilu alehem goralot. In other words, you think that one is different than the other? No, it says, you know why one is different than the other? Because God chose this one and not this one. That's why one is different. That's why nature looks like it's nature. Etilu alehem goralot. Yeah. And put on them goralot. Lottery. Echad leshem ve'echad leshem abal. One is going to be to God, and one is going to be Baal, nature. ובחרו להם הפר האחד. So they chose, we're going to serve nature. That's what we're going to serve.
Why Baal? Baal is nature, Baal is אחד העובדי האלילים שלהם, no?
You give him and he gives you back. You do the work. You do the hard work and you get back. And God give you the money. Yeah, exactly. Right? By the way, it is פרק כ', exactly. ופרעה של אליהו מיד נמשך אחריו. It says, and the bull of Eliyahu immediately ran after Eliyahu. He wants to go to God. He wants to get elevated to godliness. והפר שלל לשם הבעל, and what about the other bull? The one that was supposed to go to idol worship? נתקצו כל נביאי הבעל 450 ונביאי אשרה 400 ולא יכלו לזוז רגלו. There's 850 men trying to push him. He doesn't budge. He doesn't want to move. In other words, he doesn't want to go. עד שפתח אליהו ואמר לו, until Eliyahu talked to him. Obviously, this is all spiritual things. It's not like there's a conversation over there. It's a spiritual conversation between Eliyahu and the bull. Whatever spiritual conversation means. ואמר לו, and he says to him, לך עמהם. He tells the bull, go with them. In other words, he tells the bull, go and for idol worship. So the bull tells him, what do you think? What am I? You want to use me for idol worship? השיב הפר ואמר לו לעיני כל העם. The bull still refused to go. After Eliyahu tells the bull, go with them, and the bull doesn't even listen to whom? Doesn't even listen to Eliyahu. He says, אני וחברי יצאנו מבטן אחת. It says, we are both belong to God. We came from one mother. We both come from the same source. מפרה אחת, from one cow. וגדלנו במרעה אחד, and we grew up exactly the same. והוא עלה בחלקו של מקום, ושמו של הקדוש ברוך הוא מתקדש אליו. And my brother, it says now, he's going to get elevated to godliness. He's going to become godly. ואני עליתי בחלק הבא להכיס את בורי, and you want me to go and to go against God? That's my mission, is being against God? Yeah? That's what my mission is? This is what nature is shouting? All of nature is what? Saying God doesn't exist. That's what nature is. Page number 4. אמר לו אליהו, so Eliyahu is talking to the bull, page number 4 in the top, par. He tells him, bull, don't worry. אל תירא. He says, don't be afraid. לך עמהם. You should still go with them. ואל ימצאו עלילה. Yeah, go with them. Just, and what's the idea? God is going to figure it out. It says, you don't realize what's the figuring out right now? It says, don't worry. God is going to figure out why you're there. שכשם ששמו של הקדוש ברוך הוא מתקדש על אותו שימי, כך מתקדש עליך. It says, you're going to do exactly what my bull is doing. My bull is going to go to God. You also are going to go to God. Just the same way. There's no difference between you two. Elohim and Havai are exactly the same thing. There's absolutely no difference between you two. Now, the 850 guys, 450 of the Baal and the other 400 that serve the Asherah, that serve the tree, yeah, those 850 together knew they're going to be in trouble. They didn't just trust that, even though the Baal usually answer them, but they don't want to take things to chance. Maybe today is going to be busy. He's not going to answer them. So they had a trick. They went and they hid someone underneath, and he was told in the right time, when we're going to call, you light the fire from underneath, and then everybody's going to think that we won. So let's see what happened. Source number 3. Chiel as'u navuv. So they made the area under the altar hollowed, ושמו אותו בתוכו, and they put this guy inside of him. ואמרו לו, and they told this guy, כשתשמע את הקול, when you hear us screaming to the Baal, מיד חטא האש אשר בידך. Immediately we're going to give you fire, going to give you coals, whatever it is, and you're going to light up the fire. והדלק מתחתיו, you're going to light it from underneath. מיד זימן הקדוש ברוך הוא נחש ונשלחו ומת. God made the snake go over there, he beat him and he died. So now when they're screaming, Baal, 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 there's nobody there to listen. Yeah? Okay. So now we're going to start understanding this in a real deep manner. After we have the midrash and we have the story, we need to understand what is exactly is going on over here spiritually within the nation. You can see that something is happening. What is happening over here? So let's see. הגה עצמך, the Rebbe says on page number 5, ישנם כאן שני פרים שמן הקצה אל הקצה. We have over here two bulls, opposite bulls, exactly the opposite. פר אחד שהקריבו להשם, one bull was sanctified God's name, you brought him as a sacrifice to God, ועד שנעשה קדוש בקדושת קורבן עולה. It became a burnt offering. It had the title of burnt offering. That's how holy it was. Kodshei Kodashim, the rules of here, of burnt offerings, are the highest rule of purity you have to keep for that. שהרי אף על פי שיקראו בחוץ בר כרמל, הייתה הוראת שעה לפי נשיא, and over here it says, even though you're usually not supposed to be bringing burnt offering outside of Yerushalayim, outside of the temple, because of, like I told you in the beginning, you were allowed to because it was one time and you have to listen to a prophet when he tells you to do one time. So that's the one part. ופר שני, and the other bull, what's with him? שהקריבו לעבודה זרה. That they brought for idol worship. שלכן נאסר בהנאה ומטמא. And other words, if you touch it, you become impure. And real impure. That's real hard impurity. ואף על פי כן, nevertheless, הנה לא זו בלבד שיש צורך בשני הפרים. But think, God at that moment needed these two bulls. Just one bull wouldn't have been enough. He needed both of them to make the point. אלא עוד set, and you're going to ask, which one sanctified God's name more? The one that got burnt or the one that didn't get burnt? It's a hard question, right? So he said, ששניהם שווים, they're actually both equal on that aspect. בנוגע לפעולת קדושת שמו של הקדוש ברוך הוא. They both say God is God. Without one of them, any of them, you wouldn't say that God is God. You need both of them. You need the one that's burnt, you need the one that didn't burn. כשם ששמו של הקדוש ברוך הוא מתקדש על אותו שעמי, כך מתקדש עליך. This is what Eliyahu was telling the other bull. Without you, we don't have, we can't do it. It says, in other words, you are together with me. Nature is together with me. כך שגם, but even though it's nature, it's עבודה זרה. You see, it becomes, כך שגם הפר לעבודה זרה נוגע לפעולה של אלו שפוסחים על שני הסעיפים. So in other words, it was the bull that didn't get burned that helped those guys to realize that they were wrong. שגם הם יכריזו, we want also those guys to realize that הוויה הוא האלוקים, that God is the true God and not to believe in idols. Let's go to page number 6. וההוראה מזה. And the truth from this. So you have some people who say, okay, so now we learned. Eliyahu was a religious Jew. He involved himself with what? With religious practices all day long. What does it mean, religious practices? Religious practices are practices that show that God exists. That's what they are. They're practices that reveal godliness. That's what they are. They're practices that reveal godliness. That's what a Jew wants to be. He wants to be in a job that reveals godliness. All of a sudden you tell the Jew, excuse me, we don't want you to go to shul today. We don't want you to go daven to God today. No, that's not what we want you to do. Today we want you to go into the business world. Today we want you to go into the world where you don't see godliness. What does it mean you don't see godliness? We want you to go into a world where you break God's laws. That's how you make money. When you break God's laws, that's where the godliness comes. That's where the good things come. The good things come. See, in the world of Torah, the good things come when you do the words of God. In the world of business, it appears as if the good things come when you break the rules, when you cheat, when you lie, you make more money. Yeah? When you open up on Shabbos, you make more money. So you would think that God wants you to be well. God wants you in the world of what?
In nature.
God wants you in the world of Torah. That's what you would think. So over here, שכאשר יהודי טוען שאין רצונו להתעסק בעניין של שיטת עבודה זרה, a Jew says, why am I going to work? You know what work is? Work just reminds me every day that God is not boss. That's what it reminds me, constantly. It reminds me every millimeter of the day. I know, if I cut this corner, I go against God over here, I'll make $5 more. I go against God over there, I'll make $10 more. That's what work is. It's not like going to shul. מה עליי, מה לי ולצרה הזאת? It says, why should I go and work in nature? I'll be like the Baal Shem Tov. I'll sit down. I'll learn Torah all the way. And it's going to come from the heaven. God is going to supply. ואין כוונתו של לעשות מאומה. It says, it's not like I'm not just going to sit down and do nothing. The opposite, no. אלא רצונו להתעסק בענייני קדושה. It says, I want to do things of holiness. I want to work hard. Come on. For example, what am I going to do? I'm going to sacrifice. I'm going to sacrifice my time, my intellect, my emotions to what? To God. To God I'm going to work hard. I'm going to spill my blood. ובידעו גודל מלאכת עבודה זו. It says, that's the service of God. That's what a Jew should do. Sit in shul all day long and daven to God. יעסוק בה במרץ, and I'm going to do it with full of energy. הכי גדול בזוז בחשק, with all my energy. ועל ידי יפעל בדרך ממילא גם בחוץ. And through this, God is going to give me my sustenance. What? God doesn't have his ways? He can do his ways. אזי אומרים לו, so then God comes and tells him, you wrong. That's not what we want you to do. שצריך לעסוק גם עם הפר השני. It says, I want you to also work with the other bull, with the nature bull. I want you also to be busy doing the other work. In other words, which work? The work that you don't see God in. The work that you see when you go against God, you get more sustenance from God. That type of work. Nature work where you cut angles. שקשור עם העניין של עבודה זרה. This is idol worship. The idols give me money, not God is giving me money. My cheating, my lying, my intellect, my foxery, how I can bend the rules, how I can do the taxes, all this is about giving me money. Nature, more money. היינו, להבדיל ולהפריש יהודים מעניינים של עבודה זרה. In other words, you tell him, go into the business world, but stay away from all these aspects of that kind of thinking. כולל גם שלילת כל עניין של עבירה. In other words, yes, go into business. The business is going to tell you, if you cut corners, you'll make more money, and you're going to say, I'm not cutting corners. Why? Because I make more money. How? By not cutting corners. But I don't see it. I see that when I cut corners, avodah zarah, when I do something wrong, I get more money. That's your problem, you don't see it. That's what I want you to reveal. כפי שמבואר רבנו הזקן בתניא. Just like the Alter Rebbe explains in where? In Tanya. ובאופן המובן גם בפשטות, שהחוטא ועובר אצלו יתברך, אפילו בעבירה קלה. Someone who sins, that goes against God, even in a small sin, it doesn't matter how small the sin is. In the smallest of the sin, you know what? You work as a waiter, and somebody came and gave you $100 tip, and in the end of the day, it's there. And then in the mail, he sent you home another $20 tip. So and then he sends you. I don't know how he got your address. He sent you another $20. So he says, nobody knows. Nobody knows that I got another $20 tip. Not even the guys in the restaurants, that they are not going to tell the IRS about the fact that, but me, I know. I'm thinking if I'm not going to tell the IRS, I'm going to make $1.50 more because I don't have to pay for this $20. No. I'm going to pay the $1.50. And you go and say, this tip that this guy gave me, I'm going to declare it to the IRS. This is what we're talking about. Even a small little bit thing like this. We're talking about the smallest of the smallest. Okay. שזהו כללות העניין של סומרה. Okay. I'm going to tell you now a story. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm going to tell it to outside. The story has a couple of variations. This variation, the way I'm going to tell it, might be a little bit different than what is going to be written over here, but the story itself is the same story. There was a guy who was very close to God. He was somebody who was a good head on his shoulder. This is in Russia. This is old Russia in the time of the Alter Rebbe, about 250 years ago. He was a very learned man, very good midas, very good heart. Everything was good by him. He didn't have a job because when he got married to his wife, the father-in-law gave him money to sit down and learn. So that's what he did, he sit down and learn. Then his wife died and he remarried. Yeah? And once he remarried, it was already difficult with the second wife. He had children from the first wife, and now he needs to sustain them, and then the father-in-law is not giving money anymore. Because it's true that it is his grandchildren, but it's not his daughter, so he's not getting as much money as before. And somebody offered him a position to be a rabbi in a big city. So he's a chassid. So before he accepted the position, he goes to the Alter Rebbe to ask the Alter Rebbe, it's a good idea, not a good idea. So as soon as he comes into the Alter Rebbe to ask, the Alter Rebbe looks at him and he says, I want you to become a wagon driver. Now, you have to remember. A wagon driver. I want you to understand. At that time, wagon driver was the last job a Jew would take. Yeah? You would take any other job almost before you would take the job as a wagon driver.
Like a taxi driver today.
It's not only because of that. No, it's not like a taxi driver today. I'll tell you why. Because the guys who used to be in the business were all non-Jews, lowlifes. They were mafia guys. They were Cossacks, You know what a Cossack is. They were like mean, tough, simple guys who were rough and tough. Used to swear all the time. It wasn't an atmosphere for a Jewish. What? Like truck drivers, yeah. But much more. Like Russian truck drivers. Yeah. So you can imagine what it was. Not only that, most of the job at the time, they didn't have synthetic oils at the time. So the way they used to have the grease, the wheels and everything, it used to be with lard. So you're talking about a Jew that all day, all his hands are full with lard, and he's taking, it's not something, Jews didn't want to do this job. So you can imagine, he comes with an offer to the Alter Rebbe to become a big rabbi of a big city, and the Alter Rebbe tells him, become a wagon driver. He's in shock. He doesn't even know what to say. So he doesn't say anything, he just goes home. He doesn't know what to do. So he goes home. Meanwhile, his wife, the second wife, heard on the way, because he's muttering to himself on the way already, wagon driver, what wagon driver, what wagon driver? She heard that her husband went crazy. He wants to become a wagon driver. So he comes home, she's crying. She says, my husband yesterday was going to be the biggest rabbi in this town, and now today he's going to be a wagon driver. What's going on over here? So she's crying. So what does he do? So he tells, look, it's not my fault. I went to the Alter Rebbe and he told me. She said, you didn't tell me that the Alter Rebbe told it to you. Now it's a different ballgame. She went and she sold all her jewelry that she had in the house, and she bought a wagon and a horse for her husband to become a wagon driver. It says, if the Alter Rebbe told you that you want to become a wagon driver, you become a wagon driver. So this guy becomes a wagon driver. 10 years later. Remember, this is 10 years later the story goes. 10 years later, he's a wagon driver. Instead of being a rabbi, a big rabbi in some town, he's a wagon driver. In other words, instead of being a rabbi, instead of being the bull that goes for Hashem, he's the bull that goes to idol worship. But he does it exactly the way God wants it. Nature is nature. He doesn't cut corners. Yeah, he doesn't do anything wrong. So you can imagine there was one guy, a Jewish man, that one day needed a wagon driver. And they were in an inn. I'm not going to tell you the whole story, how they got to the inn, that's not the problem right now. They were in an inn. It's a big story. If you want to read it, you can read it over there. And he asked this guy, he was also Jewish. The other guy Jewish wasn't religious, the passenger. So he asked him, hey, I want you to take me tomorrow from this inn to another one, to another place. So he tells him, says, when are you leaving? So he says, what do you mean when we're leaving? We're getting up in the morning, we daven, and then we go. That's what we do. So he says, no problem. We wake up in the morning. This guy davens. He started learning Hasidus before davening. So he learns Hasidus from 6 to 8:30 for 2.5. Then he davens for another 3.5 hours. By the time they need to leave, he says, and we're not going to make it before dark to the other city, we cannot go. So the next day, he already knows this guy is crazy. I cannot travel with him. What I'm going to do is he goes to another guy that came through the night into another wagon driver. He says, tomorrow you're leaving 5 o'clock in the morning? I'm with you. 5 o'clock in the morning. But meanwhile, he's sleeping another night at the inn. So when he sleeps another night in the inn, he hears crying in the middle of the night. He hears somebody crying. So he goes around, he picks another room over there, and he sees the wagon driver, who's supposed to be a big rabbi, he's seen sitting on the floor and crying. He's doing something that is called tikkun chatzot. He's crying for the destruction of the temple. You suppose in the old times people used to do it every day. Today people don't do it so much anymore. But he was sitting at 12 o'clock at night and crying and he did something to his heart. He did something to his heart. He says something. He did something so much to his heart. He said, why am I going the wrong way in Judaism? Maybe I should return to Judaism now and become a good Jew. That's what he's thinking. And because of his big sorrow, because he's so sad that he messed up in his life, he became sick and he fell into bed. But he wasn't so sick so far, but he decided he's not going to travel at 5 o'clock in the morning. He woke up, he's still sick, and he sees the other one is right now only davening. You know what, he was learning before davening and now he's davening, the wagon driver. So he goes to the innkeeper who is also Jewish and he says, can I borrow your talis and tefillin? I also want to daven. And I didn't daven for the last 20 years. I want to daven. So he puts on the talis and tefillin and he davens. And then he becomes even more sick. And he's about to die. And there was a miracle and he was saved. He had very high temperature, he was about to die. Everybody gave up on him. The miracle he was saved. So after this story is over, the wagon driver in his traveling goes back to the Alter Rebbe. So as soon as he comes into the Alter Rebbe, again, the Alter Rebbe tells him, before he even talked to him again, the Alter Rebbe tells him, your time is over, go be the rabbi of that town. In other words, for 10 years, he was just in other words, you ask what's the purpose of idol worship? This is the purpose of idol worship over there for that bull was that all of the tribe, the 10 tribes, are going to do tshuva. That was the purpose. You ask what's the purpose of the idol? That's what he's telling the bull. The purpose of the idol worship, not to do the idol worship, is to bring all these guys back to do tshuva. In other words, go become like nature. Don't do anything for God. Looks like. Okay. So that's the story. Let's go now to page number 9. But we're going to see that it's not going to end as easy as we think. As page number 9. It's going to become even more complicated. So let's see how. The question is, מדוע תבע מהם אליהו עד מתי אתם פוסחים על שני הסעיפים? Listen to Eliyahu's question. When Eliyahu he didn't ask them, who's for God, come with me, and who's for the Baal, and who's for the Arab should go over there. No, that's what we said. He says, until when are you going to dance on both weddings? What is he talking about? He's talking to religious people over there. He's saying the religious people are dancing on both weddings. Yeah? There are some religious people who don't dance on both weddings. But religious people, what does it mean, a religious person that dances on both weddings? So think about it. Think about a guy, long white beard, long white beard until the floor, kapota, black, comes to shul, daven 3 times a day, does all the commandments, keep only kosher, does this. And then he opens a business. Yeah? And when he opens a business, he's got a partner. And cheating his partner, not the end of the world. He cheats him over here, he cheats him over there, the customer over there, he cheats over there. Says, what's going on over here? If you're religious, are you religious? So if you're religious, you believe in God, right? If you don't believe in God, don't be religious, right? But no, he says, I'm religious, but I'm getting my sustenance from what? From nature. I am religious, and I am where? I am in both worlds. I know that when I cheat, I get more money. That's what I know. And I want the sustenance of more money. So this is whom Eliyahu is talking to. It says, you're religious and you're not religious at the same time. It says, you can't do that. It says, decide. You have to decide. You cannot dance in both weddings. Choose which wedding you want to dance. Don't dance on both. היה לו לתבוע, he should have said, עד מתי אתם עובדים לבעל? It says, until when are you serving only the idols? הגיע הזמן שתפסיקו לעבוד את הבעל, תחילו לומר את השם אלוקים. It says, it's time to stop serving the idol and only serve God. But that's already said, because they were serving God and they were saying we're religious and we're serving nature at the same time. And nature is, we have two gods. The God of nature and the God of the Jews. There's two gods over here. You know what I'm saying? There's two gods. ויובן בהקדמת ביאור חילוק בין עבודה זרה לפוסחים שתי סעיפים. So let's understand what is idol worship, and then we're going to understand what it means dancing on both weddings. עבודה זרה, so says, what is idol worship? פירושה שהוא אמנם חושב באמת שהעבודה זרה נותנת לו השפעה. Is somebody that thinks that this type of behavior is going to give me money. That's what Avodah Zarah is. He doesn't realize that money comes from God. He thinks that money comes from what? From a certain behavior. Whichever behavior it is. Cheating, lying, I don't care what you want to go. Or serving nature. You serve nature the right way. You open your business the right way. You're supposed to open the business. You use your mind to make lots of money. Yeah? And that's what is going to give you money. Because that's what nature is. That's what you're serving the system of how to open business. That's your God right now. The way of opening the business the right way, that's what gives money. That's according to you.
It's separate from your God.
Exactly, it's not God. הוא באמת סבור שעל ידי זה שיעבוד את הכוכבים, אז לא ייתנו לו את ההשפעה. It says, if I'm going to run my business according to the way a person is supposed to run his business, with my mind, with my action, with my effort, I'm going to make money. That's the way it works. That's the way God set it up. מה שאין כן, in other words, a person doesn't believe in God at all over here in this first example. He just believes that if he opens business the right way, he does business the right way. The right way means a business in such a manner to make the most money, he will make the most money. He doesn't believe there's a God. He's an atheist. This is the first example. The second example is the same case but with a religious Jew. Look, this is what it means he dances on both weddings. מה שאין כן פוסח על שני הסעיפים, which is another person who dances on both weddings, הוא מאמין בקדוש ברוך הוא. It's someone who does believe in God. וגם בעבודה זרה, but he says, I don't only believe in God, I also believe that if I do it the right way is what gives me the money. מצד אחד הוא אכן מאמין בקדוש ברוך הוא, on one side he believes in God, אלא שבכל זאת, בשביל פניות גשמיות הוא עובד את הבעל, because I want to get more money, I can work nature is going to give me a little bit more money. ועל פי זה יובן, and according to this, שבכמה וכמה פרטים גרוע העניין של פוסע שני ספים יותר מעבודה זרה. And now we're going to see how Eliyahu looked at it. He says, it's better to be an idol worshipper than this kind of a Jew. That's what the Eliyahu says. It says, if you believe in God and you believe in nature at the same time, it says, you know what, it's better for you just believe in nature. You have more of a chance to be closer to God that way. Yeah? That's what Eliyahu said. This is what Eliyahu was fighting there. It says to the people. Page number 10. אף שבכללות, he says, what am I talking about? So this is what Eliyahu is saying. You should know that generally, עבודה זרה היא גרועה יותר. Idol worship is idol worship. It's the worst thing possible. שהרי הוא מקולקל בקביעות. Because you're completely going against God. Completely. והוא כופר רחמנא ליצלן, and he's going against God, מכל מקום בנוגע לתשובה, but think the other way. At the moment the guy wants to do tshuva, at the moment that he realizes that there is a God, הפוסח על שני הסעיפים גרוע יותר. The one who dances on both weddings is going to be worse. Why? Because the guy who realizes he made a mistake, he realizes he made a mistake. The other one, he never made a mistake. I believe in God. What are you talking about? It's not that I believe in. He always believed in God. You see, in him, he always thinks, I'm religious. I was always religious. Yeah, I cut a corner over here. But that doesn't mean I'm not religious. Of course I'm religious. I'm a religious person. I serve God. It says the one who dances on both weddings is even worse. כי קשה יותר שהפוסח של היפים יעשה תשובה שלא אמיתית. Because the truth is, it's going to be extremely hard for the guys who dances in both weddings to do tshuva, to do repentance. ושני פרטים בזה. And it's extremely hard because of two things. מי שהאמין בעבודה זרה, a person who doesn't believe in God, he only believes in nature, הרי בשעה שתופס את עצמו שההוויה הוא אלוקים, at the moment he realizes that God is nature, that's it, it's over. Yeah? ועד עתה היה בטעות מרה, and he was mistaken until now, מרגיש שהוא את גול אחרי שעשה, he feels, I sinned. He feels, I did something wrong. ובמילא עושה הוא תשובה כדבעי, ושב ורפא לו. So he's going to do תשובה. לעומת זאת, הפוסח השתי הסעיפים, on the other hand, the one who was religious beforehand, who just cut corners here and there, כיוון שמאמין גם בקדוש ברוך הוא, הרי אפילו אחרי זה, because he always believed in God, even after that, אינו מרגיש כל כך את גודל החטא. He says, I was never an idol worshipper. He doesn't feel the amount, the $20 that I took, you wonder that's going against God? Oh, come on, it's the government, you're allowed to. The customer, he wasn't Jewish. You're allowed to, come on. He doesn't feel it going against God. It's hard for him to feel. I'm a religious man. I come to shul. I daven 3 times a day. This is part of business. What do you want? How do you want me to make a living? You know, Jews make a living by cutting corners. בחשבו מעצמו וחימה חטאתי כל כך. It says, what such a big sin did I do? הרי מלכתחילה הייתי בספק, אפילו בחציות. He says, look, even then, I wasn't sure that it was nature. I knew that God was involved. And I kind of, in other words, I believed in God, but just as insurance, I'll also walk nature. I'll take insurance on nature. But I believe in God. Yeah? In other words, my worshipping idols was just insurance. It wasn't like I didn't believe in God. ובאמת, הרי אני כמו כל בני ישראל, I'm a pure Jew. תמיד הייתי מאמין, I always believe just in God. וממילא חרטתו איננה אמיתית, therefore it's going to be very hard for him to repent, because he will always give him as an excuse that nature by me was only an insurance, it wasn't my real belief. That's the first problem. The second problem we're going to have, מי שמאמין בעבודה זרה שלא בשיתוף, somebody who believes in idol worship and he doesn't believe in God at all, in other words, he only believes in nature, he doesn't believe that God exists, הרי הוא מקולקל בתכלית רחמנא ליצלן, says he's going against God, הוא טועה וסובר שהבעל הוא חס ושלום האלוקים, he thinks, where did we come from? We came from nature, and therefore if we serve nature the right way, we'll get the sustenance what we need. אבל ייתכן, but it's possible, שאף על פי שהוא נפרד מאלוקים אמת, מכל מקום, כללות עניין הרוחניות נוגע לו. But it's possible that he can become, he's looking for spirituality. He still seeks spirituality. לעומת זאת, הפוסח על שתי הסעיפים, but think about the religious person that also takes insurance on nature, like we said. הרי זה מורה על השחתה גדולה כל כך, he brings himself to such a low level, שלא זו בלבד שאין רצונו בשייכות לאלוקים אמת. Not only does he prove, I don't want to do what God wants, what God says, because he cuts corners in business all the time, אלא שאין לו שום שייכות לכללות עניין הרוחניות. You find, let's say, you find many atheists, yeah, who will never cheat. Who will never cheat another man. They're looking for something. They're honest people. It says, it's true I don't believe in God, but I'm not going to cheat you. I'm not going to lie to you in your face. And on the other hand, you have religious people that will lie in your face, will cheat you in your face, will still be high and not have a problem at all. It says, in other words, they're not even looking to become spiritual. See, an atheist is still looking for spirituality. A religious person, once he also has nature, he's not looking for spirituality. He's looking for money. That's what he's looking for. He's not looking for spirituality. Only an atheist is looking for spirituality when he is involved with nature. A religious person he's saying a statement. I don't want spirituality. I don't want to be a good man. I want to be a cheater and a liar because I like money more than I like spirituality. That's what he says. וראיה על זה, and the proof שבידעו את האמת, says, what do you mean? You know that God is nature. You're a religious person. You know that God is nature. נכון בעיניו להמיר, he still says, I'll rather choose nature, the sin over God, not the sin. Look what he says. את הקדוש ברוך הוא תמורת גשמיות. In other words, I'm willing to give my spirituality for $5. I'm willing to sell my heaven. I'm willing to see my connection to God for what? So I can earn $5 more. It's worth it. How can you say it's worth it? See, this atheist doesn't think it's worth it. He knows he can get $5 more. Yeah, he does. He does love money, but he likes spirituality more.
No, have money no is bad.
Yeah, but the atheist also loves money. They both love money. The difference is that the atheist loves money, but he also loves spirituality. This guy loves money and he doesn't love spirituality. And the proof is that he knows who God is. And he doesn't go towards spirituality of God, he goes towards the money.
He's turning on the truth.
That's right.
That's what it is, yeah.
In other words, look at them. You can look at it like this. A religious man is standing over here next to God. An atheist is standing far away from God. He doesn't believe in God. But you know what the problem is? The religious man, you know where his eyes is? At the physical world. That's what he wants. And the atheist, you know where his eyes is? At the spiritual world. He wants that more than money. And this guy wants money more than the guy he's standing next to. That's exactly what's happening over here. Yeah? You noticing what's happening? Okay. But then there's one more aspect after that. מי שעובד עבודה זרה חריצלן, אף יהודי לא ילמד ממנו. So somebody who's an idol worshipper, no other Jew is ever going to learn from him. A Jew is not going to take an example for somebody who's an idol worshipper. בידעם שהוא כופר, because they say, this is an idol worshipper. What am I going to learn from him? How to be Jewish? אין לאף אחד עסקים עמו. Nobody wants to deal with him, because I don't want to be in his environment. He's an idol worshipper. לעומת זאת, a religious person that doesn't behave well in business, you know what the problem is? In shul, when he's next to other Jews, it looks like this guy is what? A holy tzaddik. He's a holy righteous person. People take example, make him an example. And they say, oh, if he steals, if he doesn't do this,
I can do that too.
Much more. He's more religious than me. Look at the guy. Look in shul. He davens for 5 hours. I daven for half an hour. He learns for 10 hours. I learn for 20 minutes. He's much better than me. He's an example. See, the idol worshipping is not a problem. This guy is a problem. כיוון שהוא גם מאמין, הרי הוא בכלל מחטיא את הרבים. There's another problem. He's making other people sin. He's not telling him to sin. Just his behavior is making other people sin. הוא מחטיא את הרבים קשה מכולם. And that's the worst thing possible. מובא בגמרא. So it's brought down in the Gemara. שיצר הרע של עבודה זרה ביטלו את כוחו. That there was a period of time where the attraction to idol worship was removed from the world. Yeah? People don't want idol worship, but you know what people do today all the time? They dance at both weddings. That we say. אבל העניין של פוסח שתי הסעיפים, I'm religious and I believe in nature, that nature gives me money. Even though I'm breaking God, I'm going against God, it's worth it. Over here, you can cheat the government over there a little bit. This guy over there, he's a bad guy. It's a commandment to cheat him.
There is something to say. It's a mitzvah to steal.
It's a mitzvah to steal from him. That's right. It's a mitzvah to steal from him. This guy is an evil guy. Yeah? אם בדקות שבדקות, אם בדקות או יותר מזה. That's what you say. Page number 12. ישנו כאלו there are those people. Oh, before we even start this, I just want to make a point over here because we continue, because some people can get the wrong impression. Over here, we're talking about religious Jews that are going towards physicality, that are willing to cheat and steal because they love money more than they love God. Yeah? People today don't fall into that category. Most people who are people who were far away from God and were looking and are looking to go towards God. So over here he's talking about those religious Jews who are starting to go away from God into physicality. So he says, don't behave in such a manner. But people who are moving towards God, they could behave in such a manner. Like it says not to behave over here. Just have this in mind when we read this. ישנם כאלו, there are those, שבשביל פניות, over here the Rebbe is talking about two religious Lubavitchers. You have to remember, he's talking to rabbis. He's talking to religious people who were always religious. And he's telling them, you guys are dancing on both. He says, that's what you guys are doing. He says, why are they doing this? So he says, there are those שבשביל פניית גשמיות, because you have you like physicality, you like money, you like something. Parnasa, for example, money, sustenance. Kavod, you like people to honor you. ומה יאמרו הבריות, or what will the neighbor say? מוותרים לפי שעה על כמה וכמה עניינים של תורה ומצוות. You say, you know what? Maybe I don't need to be so careful about Torah and commandments. Torah and mitzvahs maybe are not so important right now in my life. There's a time for Torah and mitzvahs, but not right now. למשך מספר ימים, מספר שבועות, whether it be for a few days, a few weeks, a few years. מעמידו את השולחן ערוך יחד עם הקדוש ברוך הוא כביכול. He says, this is the book of laws. We're going to put it right now on pause for a while. We're going to put it on pause. After I establish my business, after the business is already doing good, it's doing well, then I can bring back, I'm going to give a lot of charity then I can bring back what? The book of laws. But you can't start a business and keep every law. Your competition is going to eat you alive. It's not going to work this way. Exactly. There is no way you'll make money. How are you going to, with the competition? You have to go with the rules of nature. You have to pause Torah and mitzvahs. Not completely, but for a while, for a little time. Al hamadaf, we have to put it on the shelf. We have to shelf Torah and mitzvahs for a while. בכדי שלא אמרו עליו שהוא בטלן, because otherwise people are going to say, look, this guy that doesn't do anything, he doesn't do any work, all he does is sit down and learn whatever. שאינו מבין את הזמן ההווה, he doesn't understand how modern world works, how you make money in the modern world. ובפרט שכאן באמריקה, and specifically over here in America, צריכים לוותר על הדברים הישנים. You cannot keep Shabbos. It's not possible.
It's not like in Israel. How can you work for me?
Exactly, what are you going to do? So it says, להתנהג במקצת לפי רוח זמן. It says, you have to adjust yourself a little bit to the world you live in. That's what dancing on both weddings means. ובשביל זה, כדי שלא יאמרו עליו שהוא בטלן, so that he doesn't want that people says, look at this loser. What is he? Yeah, he's a yeshiva bracher. He doesn't know how to make any money. He doesn't know anything. כדי שיהיה לו כבוד המדומה, he wants somebody to say, oh, this is a חבר'ה man. He knows how to make a living. Or עוד ממון, or he can make some money. We're going to skip the brackets. נכון בעיניו למכור לפי שעה על כל פנים את הקדוש ברוך הוא. He says, you know what? It's not that I'm going to leave God forbid. I'm not a religious man. But for now, I'm not going to be so careful. I'm still religious. I'm still going to be careful. But you know, a little bit over here and a little bit over there is okay. Because otherwise, how am I going to make a living? It's not going to be possible to start a business this way. יש לדעת, so the Rebbe says, שבכמה וכמה פרטים הרי זה גרוע יותר מעבודה זרה. So the Rebbe says, you know what, it's better if you leave the whole religion. Just leave everything. Don't keep being religious and that. At least if you leave everything and you just do that, when you realize that you're mistaken, you'll come back. Over here now, you'll never realize that you're mistaken. It's okay. You gave yourself permission to go against God your entire life. That's it. You're never coming back. You're never going to come back from it. קשה יותר לעשות תשובה באמת. You got used to it. And you think you're still religious. You're telling yourself, I'm still religious. I'm still a good guy. כיוון שלא מרגיש בתוקף כך את החטא, because you don't feel that you're not religious. At least the other guy knows he left Judaism. You think you're still acting according to Torah, according to this. You're just a little bit. Come on, I'm still religious. הוא ישלה את עצמו שחטאו אינו גדול כל כך. So I cheated the guy. What's the big deal? I'm still a good Jew. שהרי בכלל הוא יהודי יורא שמיים, because overall I do have fear of heaven. Yeah, sometimes I throw God to the dogs, but usually I do have a fear of heavens. ומה הרעש לכך שלמשך זמן קצר ויתר ים מסוים שמנסה אחד אומר, so for a couple of years until the business will get up where I can do it honestly. So I cut a few corners. What happened? That's the first problem. And second problem, הוא מושחת. He's completely becoming deprived, corrupted. הוא יכול להמיר עניינים רוחמיים. In other words, look at him. He's got spiritual connections to God that he's willing to give up for what? For another $5. He's willing to give up commandments for another $5. בעניינים גשמיים של אלף אישה. In other words, he's willing to give his connection to God that is going to be forever for the fact he's going to make $25 more today. הוא מוכר את עולם הבא הנצחי בשביל ממון וכבוד. He sells his entire future with a connection to God in heaven for what? For another. In other words, what's in his mind? Physicality is more important than God. Yeah? The atheist doesn't think that physicality is more important than God. He's looking for spirituality. And number 3, people look at him, they think that he's religious, and they say, if he does it, I'm not as religious as him, so if he does it, obviously, I'm also allowed to do it. We're going to read the next part. It's in English. It was a yechidus with a person came to the Rebbe, and he asked him a question about life. And this is the answer the Rebbe gave him. It's very short, so we'll read it exactly as it is. And we'll see the conclusion, what the Rebbe tells how a person should not be on these two worlds. He says, many Jews today are searching. So see, when the Rebbe was talking, he was talking to people who are very religious, who are moving away from religion towards American. They want to go to the American way. More modern. The question over here is the opposite question. Is you have people who are moving away from where they are towards God. Okay. So many Jews today are searching. I said to the Rebbe, this is a person who comes to the Rebbe, he's telling this to the Rebbe. They want to return. In other words, these Jews want to become closer to God. So what should I tell them? What's the way to become closer to God? What should you say to them to help them find the way? A Jew tells you, I'm in the movement. Yes, I'm not perfect. I'm not 100% religious right now. But I want to go and move towards God. What should I do? So the Rebbe paused for a moment and he said like this. I would say that the most important thing is no compromise. In other words, what does it mean no compromise? He says, you are going to be ultra-Orthodox. There's no such thing as modern Orthodox. That's what I mean no compromise. You're going to be a crazy Lubavitcher. You want to become close to God?
You're going to be a tzaddik, you mean?
Yeah, that's what the guy says. That's what it means. Says that's not the way to talk. What do you mean? I don't know. That's what the Rebbe says. No compromise. That's what no compromise sounds like. In other words, it says, and then the Rebbe tells him, this is what you have to tell the Jew. I would send to them the words spoken by the prophet Elijah. It says, I would teach them this class that we learned today. There's no such thing as a little bit of business, a little bit of God. No. It's 100% of God. You know what's better than 100% of God? 100% idol worship. Don't do both. Don't do both. So that doesn't sound like the Rebbe. Right? Continue. How long should ye between two opinions? It says, otherwise don't become religious and not religious at the same time. It says you can't do that way. If the Lord God, follow him. But if Baal, follow him. Compromise is dangerous. Why? Once you decide to compromise, it says you're going to lose the whole game. In other words, in other words, if you don't think right now that you're going to have a long white beard and you're never going to cheat the IRS ever in your life, and you're always going to, it says, that's it. That's what it means to become closer to Jew. Huh? This is the Rebbe who I shout at you all the time, step by step, don't rush, don't rush. So how's the Rebbe shouting over here, no compromise? It's the same Rebbe that said both things. So that's how to understand. Because it sickens both the body and the soul. It says once you in your mind compromised, it says you're not moving towards God anymore. That's it. It's over. A compromiser who tries to mediate between religion and the environment is unable to go to either direction. So you're going to get stuck. You're moving nowhere. And unable to distinguish the truth. So the guy asked him, but it's not going to work. What, I'm going to tell the guy, become like a Rebbe? What do you mean no compromise? Become like a Rebbe? So the guy asks the Rebbe, but would not people reject such rigid alternatives? He says, if I tell these people, they say, forget about it, I'm never going to become it. I'm not even going to try. So the Rebbe says, this is the contribution of Chabad Hasidim. So the Rebbe says, this is what I invented Chabad for. The Rebbe pointed out it's important to know that one must do everything. But don't be a fool. Don't try to tell yourself, I'm on that level already. But at the same time, we welcome doing even part. The fact that you're supposed to do it in the meantime, that's right. The fact that right now you're only prepared to put your finger in, says put your finger in it, we welcome it. Don't tell the guy, don't put your fingernail in. Put the fingernail in, we welcome it. Your fingernail is going to be healthy, we'll work on the first part of your finger, then we work on the second. But don't in the beginning says, I want to stop over here. If you say, I want to stop in my movement towards God already, this is where I want to stop, you lost the whole thing. It says, that's where you're going to stop. That's it. In other words, you're saying, I want to be here and there. It says, no, I want everything. Right now, I'm not ready yet. You can't run a marathon from today to tomorrow. My plan is to run the marathon. How long is it going to take? Maybe it's going to take 50 years. Maybe it's going to take 500 years. I don't know how long it's going to take. But whatever I do, it's in mind that one day this is where I need to reach. I need to reach that place. Not I need to reach a place where I'm dancing on both weddings. That's not Judaism. Yeah? If all we can accomplish is to save one limb, we save that. It says if you can at least save one finger, save that one finger. Then after you save that one finger, worry about saving another finger. That's worry about later on. So there is it. The last thing on page number 14. ישנו סיפור מוזר בתנ"ך. The Rebbe says, there's a strange story in the Torah, שבזמן שמצב היהודים היה כזה, שבתוכם היה 450 נביאי הבעל, at the time that there were 450 false prophets, ורק נביא אחד להשם, אליהו הנביא, only one true prophet, אליהו, and like he said it himself, I remained by myself, הנה, אז הטענה של אליהו ליהודים לא הייתה, and it says, and I'm going to prove, it's not me saying it, the Rebbe says. You know who said it? Eliyahu. You know what Eliyahu should have said? Eliyahu should have told them, הפסיקו לעבוד את הבעל. He should have told them, stop serving the idols. That's what he should have told them. That's the one that makes sense. And what did he tell them? Until when are you going to dance on both weddings? In other words, look what Eliyahu is telling them, choose. Now that's crazy. Think about the craziness. What if Eliyahu says, what if you've got the entire nation of Israel, you've got over there 3 million people who come to Eliyahu and tell him, okay, we chose, we want idol worship. What will Eliyahu do? You told us to choose. Either the Baal says, we choose to be idol worship. We're not going to dance. We're not going to bend to dance on both weddings. We're not going to. We choose Baal. What will Eliyahu do then?
They wouldn't do it because
They would.
The fire,
No.
fire, they see godliness.
No, are you?
No?
In the temple, they didn't see godliness. This is the time of the temple. They saw godliness every day in the temple. Yeah, it's not something new.
It's better that they go to the body.
Yeah.
If they
Get out of here.
Get out.
that's exactly
But
what
how
they
did Eliyahu take a chance to all these Jews going away?
Yeah.
Let's see. לכאורה זה כלל לא מובן, so we don't really understand what was Eliyahu thinking. You crazy? You could have lost the whole Jewish nation. הרי הרבה יותר טוב שיפסחו את זה. It looks like, you know what, it's better at least if you're a little bit religious. It's better than being another worshipper. מאשר שיאמרו שהבעל הוא האלוקים היחידי. He had the opportunity to say the entire nation could have shouted, we want the idol, we want the idol. What would he have done? And if you say it couldn't have happened, it could have happened. It happened in the time of, in the desert with the golden calf. וההסבר בדבר, and the answer is Eliyahu הנביא ידע. Eliyahu הנביא knew something. It comes back to us in Tanya. כשיצמידו ילדי לקיר, when you put a gun to the head of a Jew, he screams. You know, the only concept of an atheist Jew is only by Judaism. You ask a guy, do you believe in God? He says, you know. You ask a Christian, do you believe in Jesus? He says, no, it's a stupid story. Do you believe in God? I don't believe in God. So you're a Christian? He says, what, are you stupid? I told you, I don't believe in Christianity. Yeah? You ask a Jew, do you believe in God? He says, no, it's just a story. He says, so what are you? I'm Jewish. He says, what do you mean you're Jewish? How are you? How can you be an atheist Jewish? Yeah? Or יאמרו לו, because when you put a Jew to the wall and you put a gun into his head, ויאמרו לו שהוא חייב להחליט באם השם הוא האלוקים או אלוהים. He says, in other words, a Jew may say, I don't believe in God, but I'm a Jew who doesn't believe in God. He will not say, I'm not Jewish. He says, I'm a Jew, and in order to be a Jew, you don't have to believe in God. That's what he will tell you. And Eliyahu what? Eliyahu knew it. There's a thing that we inherited from Avraham and Yitzchak and Yaakov that every Jew inherited, that he cannot go again. That's why he didn't take a chance. He wasn't worried about it. He knew that when Jews were put in the corner, that they don't have no choice. No Jew is going to tell you, he's going to say, I'm an idol worshipper and I'm a Jewish. I'm a Jewish idol worshipper. That's what a Jew is. He cannot tell you. So once you tell him you cannot be a Jewish idol worshipper, you can either choose this or that, you know for sure he's not going to use that. He's going to use this. Yehudi, like the Alter Rebbe says, Yehudi lo rotze, Yehudi doesn't want, and even if he wants, lo yachol להתנתק מאלוקות. He can't, even though when he doesn't understand it, he doesn't understand why he's crazy this way. He cannot detach himself from godliness. זהו שמחזיק בדרך עקומה, זהו מפני שהוא משכנע את עצמו בסדר שהוא דן ביהדות. And the reason why he's jumping on both weddings, he's telling himself, I'm not really jumping on both. I'm still Jewish. I'm still a good guy. I'm still religious. He doesn't realize that he's really going against God. Until here.